Sandra all the time is here with a cold heart true. She's the ears and the eyes for me and you. Every day, everyone want to hear from Sandra. And every time on the air, she's getting better. Tell your sister, tell your brother, tell your mama to call Sandra in the morning and in the evening. They always calling Sandra. And when they start fighting, they calling Sandra.
That's right, folks. Everyone is telling their mama about the cold hard truth. Welcome to another episode with more truth-telling, more problem-solving, and of course, more tea spilling than ever before. Sit back, students, grab your tea and turn up the volume because class is now in session. Call in at 936-2626 because your voice matters. Share your opinion on issues that matter the most to you. Good morning, good morning, good morning, K-Man. Happy Monday. Yes, honey child. How are you beautiful people doing? Good morning to all of our Instagram listeners. Good morning to everyone on YouTube, on Facebook, and of course, Bobo, 89.1 FM. Good morning to you guys as well. Hope that you guys are having a fantastic week. I'm trying to sort out my lights. I don't know why my light ain't working this morning. Just give me a second here. I'm going to do my best to get it turned on one way or the other. And then we are going to have a fabulous show. Everybody ready? Yes, honey child. All right. Let me see if I can figure this one out. This is a mystery. First thing in the morning. You guys are like, no, girl, we're not ready for no mysteries this early. It's too early for a mystery. All right. Everyone had a good weekend. I trust. Safe weekend. Lots going on that I need to bring you guys up to speed with for sure. Let me just plug in the show phone here. Hold on one second. And then we're gonna get it. We're gonna get the show. We're gonna get the phone calls. Yes, honey child. All right, so Monday morning, what did I say? It's Bobo 103.1 FM. What did I just say? Oh, Lord, somebody's messaging me. I probably said something I shouldn't have said. Oh, yeah. I tell you, what a mess. Hold on. Let me see what go on. Nope, it's Bobo 103.1 FM these days. Yep. All right. What did I say? No, it's no longer 89.1. Did I say 89.1? Ooh, honey chill. It used to be 89.1. Now it's 103.1. So we all have to get used to that new frequency. So, what an interesting weekend. Last time we spoke, you guys know, I was off to court. So we got to talk a little bit about that. And I think you might find some of the court stuff interesting. Oh, yes. The phone is up. Now, this is weird because I shouldn't be hearing the phone. So what is it muted? Okay. Y'all gonna have to give me a second. I'm hearing something that I shouldn't be hearing. Anyway, all right, we'll figure that out. We'll figure that out later on. That's an audio thing. So something on here should be silenced. All right. So everyone, I trust, had a fantastic weekend. I think that, by the way, I told you guys some time ago, we had a new piece of equipment in the studio, and we were hopeful that would resolve most of our audio issues. I think for the most part it has. However, I did notice last week, Friday, we played the hazard management segment, which, by the way, we're going to load back up and sort that out on Facebook as well. Very, very interesting. In case you missed it, I'll send out the link to everyone once it's on Facebook. But it's so interesting what hazard management does. They're very interesting. I mean, they do a lot. And they have their processes. And, I was really, really appreciative of having the opportunity to interview them, because there are things and processes that they have that we don't always appreciate. So when we're pressuring them, like, oh, well, why didn't we get this alert at this particular time? And, all this stuff. Yes, we want to know these things. But at the same time, there's a logical explanation up to a point of why they do what they do. And so I thought, you know what, that's actually good to know. And I think these things serve as, there's an educational component. Oh my goodness, excuse me. There's an educational component to all of it for sure. So yes, so we will continue to engage with different agencies and departments to learn what we need to learn and to understand how these things work. Yeah, why not? As they say, knowledge is power. And, they take on board as well that there are things that they could improve upon and things that they could do better. But I was really impressed with the software that they have available to them and how much of that, helps them identify when storms are coming, like the flooding zones and so forth. So make sure you catch that segment, because it is very, very educational, in fact. All right. So thank you. Big shout out to Danny Coleman and her team over at Hazard Management. It's a whole team over there that makes it all possible. So let me advise you, a lot of you purchased your dash cams. I know a lot of you got your dash cams. You have them installed, and trust me, they are coming in handy. Cayman streets are, it's like the wild, wild west out there, honey chill. You've got to be careful. We had a flip car yesterday. Today, this morning already, I saw, I think it's by, what is that area called? Bobby Thompson. I think it was in that area. Looked like somebody got knocked off of their bicycle. I was like, whoa, dangerous out there. I don't cycle on the main road anymore. Way back when, on Sundays, I used to go out and cycle all the way from Lower Valley, North Sound Estates, all the way into town. And I no longer, I haven't done that in a long time. We're talking about a long time ago. I haven't done that in a long time, but I wouldn't dare. It is just too crazy out there. Wow. I mean, you're in danger. If you're in a car, you're in more danger. If you're on a bicycle, you're even more danger. If you're a pedestrian, it's just like, whoa. Pedestrian got hit this weekend. Did you guys see that? So we're going to talk about a lot of these weekend happenings, because my goodness, I'm scared to even be on the roadway. So, yeah, what a hot mess. Jeez. All right. So look at this one from this morning. I guess if you're in the vicinity, you've probably seen this one already, but check out this incident just from this morning. Look, yeah, someone got licked down on their little bicycle. Oh, whoa. Please, folks, be careful. I see you guys out there taking chances that when I see it, I just have to shake my head. Those of you in scooters, listen, I think you are at the most risk of anybody, right? You have no protection at all. You're less likely to be seen than a bicyclist. Pedestrians, well, I guess, they don't have any armor either. But what makes it worse when you're on one of those scooters is that you're also doing speed. So when you collide, where is Mr. Traffic Man this morning? The guy who always tells us the velocity of people traveling and whatever. But this is going to be some kind of basic math. When you collide and you are on a scooter doing 10, 15, 20, 25 miles per hour, apparently some of those scooters can really pick up speed. What do you think is going to happen? Two forces traveling at a particular speed. How do you figure out the impact of the two? Well, all I know is the impact is going to be more than if one object probably wasn't moving, right? So this is crazy. Mr. Walters, thank you so much. DE for sending me his name. Yes, let's put a handle to the man's name. So pretty scary when you think about it. And of course, you wear no helmet. And then some of you have modified these scooters. You do stuff like, put additional persons on it when it was only designed for one person. Some of you have made a scooter and a bicycle together. I'm just like, whoa, it's just too much. So Remilia says in the middle of the road, I guess she's probably trying to cross the road. I'm not even sure how she ended up there, but you guys have got to be careful. The truth of the matter is, a lot of people in cars don't see other road users who are not in cars. Let's be honest. Some of them don't even see other road users who are in cars. So you're taking a real chance with your own life when you are cycling, and our roads are not friendly. They're not designed well because they're designed for cars. So what that means is if you're a pedestrian, if you're a cyclist, the roadway isn't really going to be of much help to you to keep you safe. So please think about that. Think about your own safety. Wear flashers if you travel, without optimal lighting in the evening hours, or, I'm going to adjust this light a little bit, the evening hours or early in the morning. Visibility matters. Bright colors. Don't be wearing black because, they're even less likely to see you at those hours. Our roadways are a hot mess. Stephen, how you doing? How's everything in the UK, my love? Robert, good morning. Mr. Amelia is here. Marshall, so nice to see you. So did everybody have a nice Mother's Day? All the mothers out there, this is the one day that everybody's going to treat you nice and take you out for dinner and, make sure they show you some love. So hopefully all moms, and, there's some people who haven't given birth to anybody, but they still play that role in the lives of a lot of people. I have a cousin. She doesn't have any kids of her own, but she's always taking in other people's kids. She's always looking out for them. And, they stay with her. She tries to mentor them, help them out financially. And so I consider her mother to those children because Lord knows the one who gave him birth isn't really up to the task necessarily. And so a lot of people step in and contribute as part of the village, right? And then those of you who are pet moms, I give you guys a big shout out as well, because of course we have so many people who are irresponsible in that front that it's kind of nice to have people who, do their part. So good morning to one and all. And again, I trust that you guys had an absolutely amazing Mother's Day. Someone sent me a really lovely song yesterday. That was a Mother's Day song. Maybe I'll play it a little bit later on in the show. Just remind me of somebody, because I really liked it. And I was going to put it with like a picture or something and put it on social media. It's a beautiful, beautiful song about mothers. And who also sings one of my favorite songs about mothers is, oh gosh, I'm looking at his face. Help me out with a name now. He was sight impaired singer, had a very smooth, sultry voice, African-American guy. What is his name? Dancing with, oh no, that was a song about fathers. Oops. Was it Dancing with My Father again or something? Oh no, sorry. Wrong day. That was Luther Vandross. Oh no, that's Dance with My Father. Never mind. I do like that song, but why was I thinking that was about mothers? Oh Lord. Fathers, your day's coming next month. Don't worry. You're coming right up. Mm-hmm. So yes. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Okay. So we did a little dinner last night. We have family visiting this week. So instead of doing the usual earlier lunch and brunch, we decided to go and do dinner. We went to Morgan's. Big shout out to the good folks over at Morgan's. I have not been there. I can't even remember the last time I was there, to be honest. But they did not disappoint. The service was excellent. The food was amazing. I had this lobster, what's it called again? Risotto and a steak. Boy, delicious. To start off with, I'm now trying to have a salad before every meal if I can. And I had their beet and apple. It was like beet, apples, and a little bit of goat cheese in there with arugula. Oh, I got to figure out how to make that on my own because delicious. Love, love, love it. I love beets in a salad. I don't love beets by themselves. So, I'm not typically a person who will sit down and eat beets by themselves, but if you put them in a salad, I don't know what they do. They must partially cook it or something. I don't know what they do to the beets. But amazing. One of my all-time favorite salads from Cheesecake Factory is a avocado and beet salad as well. So fruits in a salad, if you don't try it, because some people are always like, oh, like they come and I put pear in my salad. Sometimes I do apple, like different fruits, strawberries. We had a nice barbecue the other day and we had our salad, which we eat a lot of, that had strawberries in it. People are like, strawberry in a salad? Like, I never thought of that. I'm like, listen, the fruits are meant to go with a salad. That's a marriage, not like Joey says, a marriage of convenience. That is a marriage of like, it works. They long live that union because yes, that's amazing. So throw some fruits in your salads, greens, all sorts of different greens you can get. Arugula is a good one, but that salad was off the chain good. Absolutely amazing. Loved it. I could have had another one as like a main course. It was so good. So I opted to do a little steak and lobster risotto. So they brought you out like a little sampler of the lobster risotto for everyone, just like as a taster, to kind of get your palate going. And I was like, okay, I'm going to have this with a steak. Just keep it simple. Couple pieces of vegetable. They had little baby carrots and some string beans, and it was just divine. Amazing. So if you haven't checked out Morgan's in a while, one thing I must say about Cayman has a lot of amazing restaurants. Like, we are so incredibly blessed when it comes to food. Speaking of restaurants, did you guys see the article this morning? Renee just not too long posted it. Actually, she posted at 1:10 a.m. My apologies. Rat infestation affects businesses in Jamaica's tourist hotspot. What? Now, if you guys know me, I'm a germaphobe. And me and rats ain't no friends, that's for sure. So I must say that I'm one of those people, and I've shared this on my page, like my private page before. I am one of those people who, when I'm traveling, I got to check out a restaurant, make sure it's safe. Miami. Oh my God. One thing I must say about the States is they have their food inspection processes And all of that is public knowledge. We should do that in Cayman. So when someone fails inspection, they tell you why. Rat droppings in the kitchen. They found stuff in the fridge, whatever. And that is really, really, really significant. And they make it public, and there are media houses in the US who give you the ratings, and they tell you, what places have been ordered to clean up, literally, or to perhaps close and so forth, because they are not passing the relevant food inspections as an establishment. So I didn't know actually that Jamaica had food inspections protocols, I suppose, but apparently they got something, because what a hot mess. They have a rat infestation problem in Mobay. Not for nothing, but the health department has ordered the temporary closure of 25, here it is now, rat-infested businesses in Montego Bay, Jamaica. They say it is part of their zero-tolerance approach to rid the parish of rodents. Montego Bay has so many rodents? Lord Jesus, sounds like New York. So they said that 25% of the food establishments that they checked during the month of April had shown evidence of rodents. Ew. This is the kind of stuff that can make you really, really sick. You've got to be careful. Remember some years ago, now this is a long time ago, there were some tourists who went to Jamaica, and they died from eating Caesar salad. Now, it wasn't the Caesar salad that killed them. It was what was in the Caesar salad. So basically, it had rat droppings somewhere. Rodents carry diseases. And so, no, was it the rats or the snails? Oh God, hold on now. This was, let me try to remember when this was, because it was a wedding party. They were there for a wedding. Hold on. Was this 6 people that died? I think it was actually snails, But anyway, because they didn't wash the lettuce properly from the Caesar salad, this caused a number of people to die. And so I think that this was, let me see. I think that this was, but anyway, it was some resort in Jamaica, and they had a nice fancy wedding. And it was really sad because, there's some proper and simple hygiene techniques. And so sometimes you take a chance. They'll tell you when you travel, don't have a salad, because, a raw salad, if they're not cooking, if they're not cleaning the lettuce and washing it properly, you can get very, very sick, or even worse. So you got to be careful. And like I said, I love the fact that if you pay attention, you'll see E. coli outbreaks and stuff. There was just one that Rachel had posted on Facebook, April 17th. There was a deadly E. coli outbreak that hit 15 states, but the FDA didn't publicize it. Now, all of you Trump supporters, welcome now to the United States of America. Because before, these things were run of the mill, they were, publicized, and that was the norm. Unfortunately, under Trump, they've had funding stripped from them. So sometimes they claim they don't have the funding to do all the communication stuff. And then some of them have actually been told that there will be no public communication with any of this stuff anymore. Just like the hurricanes, they're not going to now notify us. I don't know if you saw that in an interview from Friday, but he basically told them to cut your budget, don't work with any regional partners anymore to share information and data with them. So when we have storms coming, a lot of times we rely on regional partners who have the financial resources to be able to send out. We don't have our own hurricane tracking planes and stuff like that. So we do rely on regional partners to help us out, and the U.S. has a lot of these things available. So when you hear, the weather folks are sending up the plane to see what the conditions are in the storm, if it's intensifying, to try to get close to the eye of the storm, all that stuff, that ain't us doing any of that. Trust me, because we don't have no hurricane hunting plane. So because of a lot of the turmoil that's happening in the United States of America, I can tell you that it is going to have a real significant impact on us. So imagine 15 states, one person has already died, having this massive E. coli outbreak. And a lot of times, you try to contain these things by informing people, you try to find the source of it. All this stuff is important, gathering of information, et cetera, et cetera. And of course, now they have where the FDA didn't even discuss the internal report. And the outbreak was declared over in February, when in fact it wasn't. This is just last month that this was continuing, with the first case being detected in early November of 2024. And guess what the source of it is? Romaine lettuce, right? So it started in November 2024 from romaine lettuce consumed in a high school in St. Louis County, according to a report. And 13 people have already been sent to the hospital, over 115 cases just in that county alone. So pretty wild. But once again, food regulators are being told not to report on this sort of thing. So you don't even know now if you're going into a state or a county or a region that has this type of an outbreak. And there's lots of outbreaks happening that are related to health right now as well. Measles and all sorts of other things that are on the increase, right? Back in 2022, the FDA warned about a hepatitis A in fresh strawberries and E. coli in packaged salads. I remember that one. And so now we get no warning. There's no public, information. They're probably not even checking exactly where the source, because it's helpful if you know the source. So if you know it's romaine lettuce, well, just don't eat any romaine lettuce. Listeria outbreak right now has 10 people hospitalized in the US linked to prepared foods. So even sometimes when you prepare food, things can happen. This is in California. So just madness, absolutely madness. So I love a good salad, but child, make sure you wash your lettuce and then you pray over it because you never know. Abby says Morgan's is my favorite. Their bread and ceviche is mwah. I looked at the ceviche and because I love a ceviche, and I'll tell you that I did look at it, and I thought about it, and then I was like, yeah, I wanted to save room for my main course. I had a salad. Eating vegetables and greens first is actually good, even for blood sugar control. So when you get a plate of food and you got your vegetables on it, eat the vegetables first. I know it's counterintuitive to what we like to do, but eat your veggies first. So I'll go back, Abby, because I do want to check some other stuff out of the menu. The ceviche, like I said, kind of tempted me. And I was like, should I or shouldn't I? I love a good ceviche. Okay, so Carnival was this weekend as well. Thank you, Andrew. He says, without mothers, there'd be no me or you. Well, that's for sure. Technically, without fathers, it wouldn't be either. But I think we acknowledge that, mothers are normally carrying a significant load. Like they're just, being a mother myself, I know the expectations that come with it. Everybody expects so much of you. Sometimes you got to tell people no, though. Not for nothing. But sometimes you're going to say, not today, honey, child. Check me back tomorrow. And that's a maybe. Don't overcommit yourself. Siobhan says, I can eat beets in a potato salad, but can't drink beets. Tastes horrible. I know what you mean. Siobhan. Yeah, I'll do it in potato salads as well. Susie says, I love a fruity salad. Yeah? And I love it mixed with other stuff, not just like all fruits, but fruits and lettuce and, cheese and all sorts of different things. So avocado, I love me some avocado in a salad. No, I'm talking about the other pear. So Claudia says pear, not avocado, are great in salad. Which pear? like the what do they call them? The jus something pear. The kind of the like, you know, when they say you got a pear bottom, that's normally what they're talking about, a pear shape. That pear is amazing, and I put it in one of my salads all the time. And I also do it in good morning, Mr. Dexter.
Good morning, Sandy. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I am fine. I was reading all the negative things they're saying on CNS, Command News Service, about you.
Aww.
Why you do not call out Isaac Rankin and J.E. Banks when they jump ship at the last minute?
What do I have to do? What article is this? Because I mean, people.
No, it was the Command News Service.
Yeah, but what article? I mean, I don't know.
Yesterday.
Is there a particular article, or people just because I mean, people just love me over at CNS?
And the you know, the blogs that people put in there.
I understand, but I mean, it has to be an article, right?
If you look on the CNN, they were talking about you winning the case against, and congratulations that you won the case.
Well, I'm going to talk about that article actually, because that article didn't exactly say I won.
I'm not calling about that. That's gone, and somebody must be looking out for you, because we need you here in Kitman more than politicians. But what I'm saying is that, you know, Jay, and then all the blogs that they had in that was all negative. Actually, I would say 90% of the blogs were negative because they don't want to put it on your blogs. And in a way, they're right for having these questions, because you have not called out Jay Ebanks and Isaac Rankin
about
why did they jump ship when, just right now, let me explain, when they were the problem of why Julie got that $50 million, and all of a sudden they give the church $900,000 at the last minute, and you have not called them out on that. So, you know, I'm going to get off the phone now for you to clarify, because you're up to date on calling people out. But from what I'm getting, it seems like there's a double standard here. And you know that I'm not going to tell you that if I didn't feel it. I'm not going to put a blog in and anonymously everybody know who I am. And I think, in all fairness to you, we need you to give a clarification why you have not called them out, because, you know, they had a chance before. If they know that they had a collective responsibility by being in the UDP government, they could have jumped ship and went the other way. But no, they stayed right down and they went with the flow of everything that Julie wanted, and they signed off on it. You know, and to me, that is the people of this country's money that they have let Julie spend, because it's going to cost about $75 million is what I'm hearing for 100 children, 130 children. And then they also give two churches, the San Vicma's Church, the Chapel Church, almost $900,000 at the, at the last hour. But I'm going to call you and tell you the reason why they did that. But I'll do that off air. Anyway, okay. I'm waiting for your clarification.
All righty. Thank you. Mm-hmm. I mean, we're gonna get to this case here in just a minute. And so CNS, I was trying to clarify from him what article, because here's the truth of it. Anytime CNS publishes something about me, that is the opportunity for the haters. And low key, I think that CNS they know this because it's very, very obvious. So this is the opportunity for the 5-10% that just doesn't like her platform, yay to them, to jump on CNS and have all sorts of stuff to say. And guess what? They can do so. That's their freedom of speech. They hide behind being anonymous, right? And the interesting thing about it is you don't know if it's one person making 20 comments, or if every single comment is a unique person. CNS knows that they're not unique, and I suspect that a lot of them are not unique. They're what I call keyboard warriors, because they can hide behind that. When we first started CMR, we allowed comments, but they were always linked to Facebook. But we allowed comments on the website, and then we stopped allowing comments on the website because a lot of you, a lot of these trolls, unfortunately, use that as an opportunity to, do what they do best. So what I would say to Mr. Dexter is, when I called out the last government, the UPM government, that includes all members of the UPM government. You do understand that, right? So nobody is spared. All members of the UPM government were responsible for the decisions of the UPM government. It's collective responsibility. Now, of course, I leaned in more on Juliana O'Connor Connolly because she is the premier. She's the leader of that group. And a lot of those projects, from the church donations to the over exorbitant school, a lot of those things are her initiatives, and she's driving them. But of course, nobody should sit back silently. And this is why when the 4 people resigned and we understood that they don't have a choice, if they remain part of the government, they have to sit down and take their licks. Remember when she did that whole thing with Andre Ebanks, where she basically went on Radio Cayman and threw him under the bus in relation to the fees associated with the credit union? And, she did that, but then his response was like nowhere in comparison to what she said. I'm thinking, why is he not correcting the record? Because they're all part of the same team, and collective responsibility dictates that he has to sit back, fall back to her, and keep his mouth shut. So, Mr. Dexter, they're all equally responsible. Every single one of them that sat in cabinet, that allowed her budget to pass, that included that ridiculous school, all of them that was spending money up until the 11th hour before the election, literally the day before and the day before that, they're wasting her money, knowing that we were in a deficit. Every single one of them bears responsibility. It's as simple as that. Now, I can't point out to anything specific other than collective responsibility. I can't go and say, well, Isaac's ministry during that time was wasting money on XYZ. I can't say Jay's ministry was spending money that we didn't need. Of course, we know that roads always get paved, this time of year. But I also have a very good open communication with NRA. So I know that honestly, some of those roads that got paved, they have been on the list. Like my road got paved, and some people came down, boy, Sandy, finally, you got a paved road. This must be because of you. No, our road was supposed to be paved 2 years ago. And it wasn't, at the end of the year, it just wasn't in the budget. So what I would say, Mr. Dexter, is sometimes you don't let people get in your head about certain things, right? You know that I call people out equally. There's no favor or favoritism, right? Even if I like someone, I will call them out. You guys have seen that demonstrated here on your show. You saw people paying to be here, and you guys had questions and comments of them. And when you put it to me, I asked them the question. Look at what happened to poor Philip Ebanks. He was a paid customer. And you guys said, no, we want to know about this story about the underage girl. We want to know about, the abuse. So, you know, I don't read CNS. I don't read their anonymous keyboard warrior comments. And so, you know, I don't know. What I will say though is in relation to that CNS article, someone said, oh, you know, there's such a big difference between the article that I wrote and hello, Mr. Dexter.
Hello, Sunday. I hope I didn't upset you because
No.
we're going to come down.
No, but I'm trying to explain. I'm trying to give you an answer and explain it. That's all.
Okay. I was looking up on the CNS, and there's over 15 negative things. I didn't even finish looking through. It was the
you do, but yes, I know which case. I know which story it is now.
Okay.
Yeah, I've got that part figured out.
I just wanted to of all the people about you, I would be defending you, but when it comes down to calling out a person for what is worth, people have you have a right to defend yourself. That's what I call democracy, you know, and it concerns me that you did not, after thinking about it, it took me a long time to think about this, or when I was thinking about it, because I didn't even want to bring it up. But to give you a chance to let your listeners and the world know what is going on. So, and then it dawned on me, you know, does Sandra have a double standard here? Why did she not try to get Jay and Isaac to come on your show and clarify why their action when they jumped ship went to go to another government? They left the UDP. There's no loyalty in them. If something goes wrong with the new government, they're going to jump ship again. And that is wrong. You know, it's all about who has the most marbles wins.
Mm. Okay.
Okay.
Thanks very much. All right then. Let me talk about this case a little bit because someone made the comment that there's such a divergence. And by the way, it's not for lack of invitation why these people don't come on the show. And a lot of people are saying, can you please limit one call a day? It's not for a lack of you know, it's not for a lack of invites why they never came on. I can't force people to do anything. Okay. And so you need to go ask Jay and Isaac why they never came on. I have been encouraging them to come on for quite some time. And then we could actually put some questions to them, but they haven't done that. What do you want me to do? What is it? Hog tie Jay and Isaac and you know, make them call? I don't have that kind of power. So here's what I'm going to say about the case. Some people say, you know, it's so interesting how her article is so different than CNS article. So therefore, that must mean that my article is different. It's funny because there are times when I sit in court and I question, when I see Wendy, and I'm just going to say Wendy, or Compass, write an article, I do question what it is that they heard that I didn't hear. And in fact, I am on a mission to get the court to allow reporters to actually record while we're in court for the purposes of accurate reporting. So I think I've seen Wendy writing in shorthand before, so I do know that she knows shorthand. I don't personally know shorthand, but it is very difficult. So I type a lot of times when I'm in court, and it is very difficult to get everything that is being said in court. Some people will request the lawyer's arguments. So I know Alric does this all the time to try to be more accurate. He will request the lawyer's arguments so he knows like what was that they would have said in court. But I think there'd be less of an issue if we all had the option of doing transcripts of our own. So you record it, all these AI tools are available, and we can simply, transcribe and get it accurate. The case is about me. So if anybody knows the case inside and out, I would certainly think that I would be the one who would know the case inside and out. And so, but everyone has a choice about what elements. They can't report in every single thing. So everyone has a choice of what elements they should put in the story. So Wendy's headline was Appeal Court Hears Arguments in CMR Podcast Case. And she talks about the case. She talks about Matthew, how he left and moved to Belize. She talked about, the Section 90 of the ICTA law. And she talked about the legal arguments that my lawyer made. She talked about that the Court of Appeal accepted the fact that the allegations may have been true, and that even they have a primary consideration, and that should have been a primary consideration in the case. But one of the big things that she didn't say, which, if we could call Wendy right now and ask her, I would want to know, is at no point did Wendy actually say, and this is important, that going into this, and on the day of the hearing, the Crown, the prosecution's office, has conceded. They have said, we believe, looking at everything now, her lawyer's legal arguments, the whole thing on review at this stage of the game, we also believe the judge got it wrong. And so we have conceded that her case should be squashed. Now, wouldn't you think that if you were listening to a case objectively, that would have been what you would have reported on? If you're reporting on what happened, even when they got up and responded, they were like, yes, we concede that he got it wrong. Now, there were certain things like they were, okay, yes, this case is impactful on it. They don't want to argue breach of process or whatever, because then that opens them up to like litigation and a lawsuit. But hold on a second. I'm going to show you guys from a journalistic perspective, right? How it is very, very interesting. Now, all these people out there, oh, she's no journalist, this and that. Okay. So Wendy Ledger is an awesome, amazing journalist. And I don't take anything away from her, but that wasn't her takeaway. She sat there and listened to the same hearing that I heard, and that wasn't Wendy's takeaway. And like I said, I like Wendy, no shade to Wendy, but I have to question what she heard in court and what I heard in court. Let me make a quick phone call here this morning. Let's see if we can get another independent person who was in court and see what they thought the takeaway was. Like, what was the big story?
You have been redirected.
All right, hold on. This is important because this shows you how journalists will hear the same thing, just like human beings, I suppose, and come away with a very, very different story. To me, the story was, wow, they're in agreement here. They should be squashed. Nowhere in her article does she actually mention that. And so, of course, her audience, who are normally CMR haters anyway, get to sit there and read this story and then try to pick apart, like, it really doesn't make any sense why she did not include that in her story. The other thing that she said, and this is where people just simply don't listen, is they say that, I got legal aid. So they're like, oh, well, how can she, so the last sentence says Hill was granted legal aid on the basis that her earlier hearing, the appeal court had raised the human rights implications of the case and the need for them to hear this appeal. So funny enough, she wasn't actually at that hearing. At the hearing where the judges said, give me legal aid, she wasn't there. So she's just basing that off of what she read probably on CMR. The Compass initially got the story completely wrong. I don't know what the Compass court reporter was talking about. So I requested the transcripts from the hearing, gave that to the Compass and said, please report accurately on what transpired in court. Because what your guy said was not what happened. He's confused about the court process. He's supposed to be, again, highfalutin American journalist with years of experience. And still, the story was inaccurate. He had the wrong legal terminology. He was saying that I was granted leave to appeal. I was granted leave to appeal back in 2023, not 2024, or not this year in January. So I'm like, that's not what happened in court. You know, court can be complex and complicated. And there are things that, you know, a lot of us don't understand, and you have to ask questions. Like there's certain things that happen when they do legal arguments that are not part of, I forget what it's called, but it's not part of the actual legal arguments that can be reported on. We can't report on that stuff when the trial is live and ongoing. So there's a lot of intricacies and things that happen. And me, myself, I ask questions if I don't understand something. But my God, you know, it's just shocking that, that this is how it went down. So I'm not sure what Wendy heard. And we can certainly ask her, listen, Wendy and I are actually in talks about potentially doing a show on CMR TV. We don't have no bad blood between us. Let me ask her a question. Because it might help you guys as well to understand how this works. All right, I'm calling her. No answer. But I mean, again, you know, obviously I knew that they had conceded beforehand because they conceded before we even went in. But as you're sitting there, to me, that is like the biggest takeaway. So now people see my article, which is like, oh, by the way, they conceded. And people think, what, I'm making that up? I'm not making that up. In fact, let me see where the legal documents are. I have the document. Hold on. Because here's the thing, right? I have zero reason. This is when people challenge me. You can challenge me on my opinion. That's fine. Whatever. Everybody's got one of those, like everybody has LeBonke. You know, you can challenge me in a lot of things, but don't challenge me in the truth. Because I take painstaking effort. And when I say painstaking effort, I mean painstaking effort to be accurate, especially when it comes to court reporting, and to be truthful and to be honest and not to conflate my opinion about a person with what actually transpires in a court of law. My lawyer's submission was over 400 pages, right? With everything that he had put together. So I can show all of you this morning, and let me pull it up here, what they submitted in response to what my lawyer said. Apparently they sent an email almost immediately once we submitted our legal arguments to say, okay, we're throwing in the towel. Why would I lie about that? That's not a headline that I am making up. So just because Wendy has chosen to not report that at all doesn't mean that that's not what happened. And I do question, you know, if I'm to be, come Miss Stacy, if I'm to be fair and impartial in all of this, even as someone who the story is about, I have to question, thank you. I'll just watch that cable, yeah. I have to question why she didn't report on it. Wouldn't it make logical sense to you guys? If this happened, why wouldn't she report on it? The only person that can answer that question is Wendy herself, because she wrote the story. Okay? So give me 1 second. Let me pull up this document and I'm going to show you guys. What day was this? This was, okay, give me 1 second here. And I'm actually going to show you exactly what the DPP's office submitted as their legal arguments. It's in there. When the KC stood up, she said, "We agree, yes, that this should be quashed." Make sure I get it right. Somebody said it sounded like I was saying squashed. Not squashed. The terminology is quashed with a Q. All right. So give me 1 second here. I'm trying to actually open the document. Where is it? Responsive draft in respect of certificate of need. No, that's something else. Just trying to find this document. And so when I wrote the story, because I wasn't there strictly in, I was there kind of listening to the case for my own purposes. What I did in order to report it as accurately as possible, and I even reached out to my lawyers, and once again, I can certainly show you guys this, that I don't have anything to hide, I don't have nothing to hide, honey child. What I did was, let me just see. What I did was I actually reached out to my lawyer and said, "Oh, this 400-page document is a lot to digest and summarize. Can I get just the points, the summarized legal points that he would have made?" So give me 1 second here. Let me see if I can find what the because in advance of a trial, the sides have to exchange responses. Okay. And so this is what happens. So let me pull this up because I want you guys to see this. So Mr. Dexter, what I would caution you is everybody has an opinion. Like I said, that's fine. And on CNS, like I said, anytime Wendy puts anything up about me, certainly draws out a particular caliber of individuals who are more than happy to try to have a go at me. That's fine. That's their prerogative. But I think you should be cautious considering who they are and, quite frankly, what they represent. So this is what the Crown submitted, okay? Skeleton arguments on behalf of the respondent, so that's the office of the DPP, for hearing on the 9th of May. And so if you will see point number 2, can everybody read this? I'm going to enlarge it just a little bit more because I want us to read along now because you can't say that Sandy made this up. It says here, by letter dated the 14th of April, 2025, the respondent indicated that the appeal was not opposed and very briefly set out the basis for that concession. Hello. Okay. They've just said, we're not appealing. We're not opposing, my apologies, right? This appeal, right? And we set out the basis for the concession. They have thrown in the towel. They have conceded that they have no case. This isn't the first time that the Crown has conceded in a matter with me. In fact, when I did the one about the search warrant, they conceded then too. Right? So that's it. So what can I tell you? They go on then to talk about Section 11 of the Constitution, and it goes into greater detail. My article, okay, is based on this document. It's based on the legal arguments from my attorney that were made in court. What else? Like, I'm confused. You write an article about what happened in court, and you don't mention that the Crown has said we're in agreement with the defense. Like, we're in agreement with, in this case, I'm called the appellant because it was me, suing them. So I'm the appellant, they're the respondent because they have to respond to the lawsuit. I couldn't think of a more important thing, overarching, that was covered on Friday in that hearing than that. And I'm quite frankly, when I saw Wendy's article, I was confused, and I actually tried calling her on, somebody sent me her article on, hold on 1 second. Someone sent me her article. As a matter of fact, hold on. I'm going to show you guys my conversation with her. Hold on. Once again, I ain't got nothing to hide. Her article dropped on Saturday, and when I received it, I called her. Give me 1 second. Let me show you. And I hadn't remembered just now that I had actually messaged her after the phone call. I remember calling her, but let me show you what I said to her. Hold your horses, honey child, because once again, I don't have nothing to hide. Y'all have to understand how I operate. I called her Saturday. I said, hey, at 9:19. I picked up the phone. I called her at 9:20. She didn't respond. At 11:37 p.m., I said, I noticed that your article didn't mention that the DPP has already conceded. That's a pretty big, relevant fact that was left out of her article. So when you read by comparison the CMR article, right? We say that they conceded, and I say what I was convicted of. Listen, I'm the first person when they come and put me in handcuffs, even before CMR existed. Those of you who've been my Facebook friends for umpteenth years, you know that no media has ever posted about me getting arrested or my cases before me. I took to my Facebook page. I'm in handcuffs right now, sitting at lockup, and I will tell you why. Nothing to hide. So when our title says the Crown concedes an historic free speech case involving CMR, there's absolutely nothing that's inaccurate about that. That is 1,000% accurate. And every single thing that we reported in the article is also 1,000% accurate. Be careful, I think, where you get information from. You have to recognize that even people can sit in the same court of law and they will evidently hear very, very different things. You know, titles are tricky because obviously you have to pick a title for your story. And that's why I tell people, don't go off of the title. You need to read the story. But the fact that they stood up even in court and said, we agree that the judge got it wrong. And we agree in these areas that he should never have said that the facts, whether it was true or not in a case like this, didn't matter. None of that was reported. So listen, keep in mind, Mr. Dexter, that CNS is anti, and when I say CNS, I'm not talking about Wendy and her partner, but their audience, by and large, is anti-CMR. That's fine. Whatever. They'll be just fine. And it is what it is. You know? But the fact that before we even get to court, that the Crown throws in the towel is pretty significant when it comes to cases. They don't do that very often. And they certainly don't do that very often at the Court of Appeal stage. That's the story. Now, Compass wasn't there, so I don't know what the Compass will write. I think that, you know, they reached out to me afterwards because I did call them out. I'm like, all other media is here. A lot of us are running one woman, one man operations. We can find the time to be here because this is a case that is significant for everyone, right? Compass doesn't show up. Compass has the most staff of anyone, and they're the only ones who are not even there. I was a bit like, wow, that's interesting, because they have a dedicated court person. In fact, sometimes they have more than one person assigned to court matters. And this is a big Court of Appeal hearing. They don't show up. There you go. What else can I say about the hearing on Friday? You know, that was the biggest takeaway. And so now the judges have said that they will provide their final decision in writing. So we have to wait. And the Compass said, okay, we'll wait for that, you know. So they missed out on this part of the news story, but they'll wait until the judgment is actually formalized. We're hoping it's in writing. We're hoping that that happens this week, because I think the Court of Appeal is here until Friday. They're still sitting until Friday. And then, yeah, we need the decision. This is a decision that impacts all media. So for those of you who don't read to understand or comprehend very easily. Even in, again, to give her credit, even in her story, that very last line, she says it. I mean, maybe y'all needed it explained a little bit more, because these people are all up in my business about, oh, well, Sandy's driving this and she's driving that, and she got a house and she has this. And I mean, y'all so worried. But, you know, at the end of the day, they missed the point. The judges said very, very clearly, they actually called in the director of legal aid. That has never happened before. I checked. They've never called her before. They didn't even know who she was to look at. So when they were looking around, they're like, yes, we requested the director of legal aid. Is she here? And she raised her hand. They're like, okay. And they addressed her. And at one point they apologized to me and said, sorry, we're talking about you with her, but you know, we apologize for that. We didn't mean to be rude. But they basically said to her, how does legal aid work in the Cayman Islands? Is it solely means-based? Because this is a constitutionally important case for the people of the Cayman Islands, not just her. This isn't really about her anymore. This is a constitutional matter. And so constitutional cases of this significance should be granted legal aid. And they instructed us, they adjourned, instructed us to leave and go figure it out and work it out. So if that isn't explained, like if you only dedicate one sentence to it where you say Hill was granted legal aid on the basis that at an earlier hearing, the appeal court had raised the human rights implications of the case and the need for them to hear the appeal. If you didn't go further and said they basically, as much as they could, instructed the legal aid director to approve the legal aid on the basis of the constitutional importance of this case, right? You only lend one little sentence to that. Of course, your listeners or your readers may not fully understand that. And some of them are woefully ignorant about the matter. So they don't care to understand. So this was not 100% means-based. This was like, you know what? The government should have to pay for this. I'm in the predicament because of the government. It's not me who decided to prosecute myself and got there because of that. So you also have to keep in mind, if you get to the Court of Appeal stage and you've actually, when I stood up and they saw my initial legal arguments, which I did on my own, and I wrote that whole document on my own. I'm sure there were probably a few typos in there because the night before I was there finger typing, right? But for them to look at that and say, we think you have an arguable case, and actually go even further and say, we agree with you that the judge probably got it wrong. That was before they'd even heard the legal arguments. They just read what I submitted. That was I was like, listen, let me tell you how big of a moment that was. There were other people in court, other lawyers, seasoned lawyers who appear before the Court of Appeal all the time. They were like, damn. As I was leaving the courthouse, they said to me, Sandy, you get him, girl. This is another win for you. That was a big moment for the Court of Appeal to say that in open court for everybody to hear. And then the compass goes away. They don't report on that at all. They don't include that. They write something else about I got leave to. I was like, huh? I mean, listen, if I was a conspiracy theorist, I'd be sitting here going, these other media houses seem a little bit salty about something, because anytime it comes to me, they're just not accurately reporting what has transpired. I mean, not for nothing, but as the judges said, this is for freedom of speech for everybody in this country. This is a constitutional matter. Denny, good morning.
Morning.
Morning, sir.
You know, it just occurred to me as you were speaking that if the Compass isn't reporting certain things about you and DART owns the Compass, you must not be paid off by DART.
Well, I'm not paid off by DART. I'm not paid off by Wendy. I'm not paid off by anybody, quite frankly. But, you know, listen, yes. And I, because I believe in accurate reporting, especially when it comes to myself, but anybody, quite frankly, what I did was I went as far as requesting the transcript from that last hearing, and I sent that to the publisher, Mr. Tripp, over at Compass, and I said, I would be most obliged if you would correct your story. And I said, I wanted to provide you with this judgment, which actually was the transcripts, to see, because I would like to see the article corrected from its previous version, which indicated that I was being granted leave to apply, because that is not what happened. And their headline said, Sandra Hill granted leave to apply defamation conviction. That was in 2023. That's not what happened that day. So I said, here's the full transcript. Get it right. Don't take my word for it. Here's a transcript of what transpired. Now go and get the story correct. So I can't explain it to you. Like I said, if I was a conspiracy theorist, Wendy's my friend, but maybe she enjoys all the comments, and from the perspective of that's more people flooding, like Mr. Dexter. I don't know how often he reads CNS, but here he is now fixated on one comment about, oh, why didn't she attack Isaac and Jay? What did that even have to do with the story that she wrote about me? That doesn't have anything to do with the court case. So now we're delving into like what happened again during the campaign and politics. What does that have to do with anything? You know, a lot of people, Denny, seem to forget that when at my sentencing hearing, I had over 60 reference letters that was submitted to the court. And there were some people that came and gave oral evidence or oral character references on my behalf. Two of those people was Kenneth Bryan and Chris Saunders. Right? Now, that's because we were acquaintances, good friends at the time, however you want to put it. I mean, my friend circle's pretty tight. But they actually defended. They got up and said, listen, you might not like what she has to say about a lot of different things. And even for them, sometimes I'm pissing them off and they don't like it. However, her right to say it should not be criminalized. And as legislators at the time, they themselves were questioning the use of that section of law under the ICTA to try to criminalize what I had done.
Well, I think that being someone who's on the front line of defending right, I am acutely aware of how much friction you're talking about. And the sources of that friction sometimes would surprise the living daylights out of people. Okay? And this is why, when it comes to this whole thing of how rights are defended, I think we need to rethink a little bit about how we go about defending our rights as a group of people. Because essentially, it's the government who is responsible for respecting our rights. But the problem is that the government is the offender when it comes to abusing our rights. And so effectively what that means is that the person who is abusing our rights is responsible for respecting our rights. And we need some mechanism by which it's not as easy for the government to initially abuse our rights, have it drag out for a decade, and then turn around and say, oh, I'm sorry that I destroyed your life. If you'd be lucky even if you get that. But essentially that's what they're doing. And then, you know, they expect you to just pick up and move on, and your life is destroyed. And then they go on destroying other people's lives all over again. There's something wrong with that. Okay? And people need to appreciate the importance of the rule of law and why this concept that the truth is a defense. Because you might think, well, oh, that's Sandy, she's just getting herself in trouble. That's what she gets. But the day that you find yourself being attacked or the focus of the government,
they'll be running to this case, trust me.
okay, but think about what it is that they, in their minds, they're thinking, oh, well, I'll just tell the truth. Yeah, but if the truth isn't a defense, you can't just tell the truth.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why this is so important. There isn't anything that I could think about. I guess there's one thing. The right to life is perhaps more important than this freedom of speech in relation to the truth. Because you can't enjoy freedom of speech unless you have the right to life.
Right.
Unless you have life. However, if you can't say that this is the truth and the truth be respected, you have a whole heap of problems. If you think CMR is a problem, take away the truth as a defense, and then you will see what real problems are. Okay? Because that means we have no rule of law. We have no possibility of resolving anything. It's just total chaos. Now, the average person will not care about this because it doesn't directly affect them. It does, but in their minds, it doesn't. And when I look at what they have done to you, I think it is so egregious that we need to look at the Bill of Rights and the derogations to those rights. And we need to ask ourselves, how can we prevent the government from abusing people's rights in these ways again in the future? I'll leave it there.
Thank you so much, Danny. I appreciate it. And here's the thing, right? I mean, a lot of you may not. YouTuber says Sandy doesn't care what happens over at CNS. We all know this. You know, one of the things that's interesting is you guys you may not remember, because it's been a long time now, what I said in the podcast and what happened. But if there was ever a show that I had sufficient evidence to back up what I said, although this was all the way back in early 2019, believe me, it was that show. I'm going to show you just one example of that. Okay. Oh, this is kind of small. You guys can't see this too well. Let me see if I can just save this image so I can bring it up a bit bigger. Give me 1 second here. So I think it is important for people to, and one day I'll spend a bit more time on this, because, you know, I don't really want to talk about Matthew today. I want the full judgment to drop, and then we can have a further, and I'm going to repost, by the way, my podcast. But this is what I want to say. This was not a situation where I had any axe to grind with Matthew Leslie, except when I learned that he was approaching underage girls. And it was at that point, when some of them shared their story with me, that I then was like, whoa, this is a whole different cup of tea. Everybody who knows Matthew knows he's a slime ball, okay? This shouldn't be any shock to anyone in Cayman. All right? He is a person who has used his weight and this perception of, oh, I'm just a big fat teddy bear, I'm harmless, to groom victims and to get to people and to do the most with girls. I, as a parent, I wasn't a parent then, I had other young people. No, well, 2019, I was a mother, but way before that, I have had young girls, people who are in my friendship circle, tell me that their daughters were approached by Matthew Leslie, $1,000 to see a picture of your breasts. Okay? So trust me, he is not a good person. If anybody needed to be exposed with the cold hard facts and cold hard truth, it is Matthew Leslie. You don't have to like how I do it. You don't have to like how I say. But when I talk about people like him, yes, he's never been convicted. That's because the system is too slack to convict him and to even investigate him. You know how many victims there are out there? How many people have talked about this? Even the judges, the grand court judge, that's one of the things he couldn't believe. How could this man be this prominent? Even Chris Saunders got up during my sentencing and said this same man had approached one of his nieces, somebody in his family. So he has a reputation that is well deserved. I was not sitting there lying on him. This is one of many, 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 many messages that I have. See what this person says? Thor, big shout out to Thor, says, thank you for coming forward, Chandra B. Bodden, because, and this is posted on Facebook, that's why I'm reading it to you because it's a public post, because it's like these people don't understand what degree this has been going on with him. Again, thank you. To what degree? Now I will ask you all how many women it is that is going to ask to come forward for Anna to understand. How many women is going to take, to come forward for Anna to understand? Chandra replies, trust me, it really grieves my soul to see how women actually are fighting against another woman and giving him support like he is a victim. I wish I had seen the screenshots. I had the screenshots to show the stuff that was said to me. I was pregnant with my daughter and her father was working for him before he tried, and he messaged saying he would pay me to suck the breast milk out of my breasts. How disgusting is that? I have known him for many years and I've heard and seen what he's capable of, and I wish fellow ladies from St. Ignatius would come forward as well. Huh? From St. Ignatius, that means that he was doing this at least from high school days. This man has always been a pervert, right? In 2013, when he first ran, a few people reached out and said to me, Sandy, this is what this man did. I spoke to him about it. It wasn't a situation where I just automatically was like, oh, we're gonna hang you out. I spoke to him and I said, dude, why am I hearing these things? No, that person lying down, so, but it was only one or two people. So I said, okay. He jumped up and ran again in 2017. But it was when he ran in 2017 that more women came forward, and most importantly, from my perspective, underage women came forward. And that was where I said, no, Bobo, this can't continue. So trust me when I tell you, the evidence was there. Young ladies, their mothers sent me screenshots. Here he is having a conversation with one. Right? So when me and you gonna do lunch and finally get to talk, they said, talk about? You know that when somebody don't really want to talk about, like, talk about what? Talk about anything. Become real friends, get to know you, stuff like that. The young lady replies, aren't we cool now? It doesn't get any better than this. Well, he replies, we randomly talk on here every blue moon. Would like to really know you, take you for lunch, take you shopping, because this is what he does. He fools these girls into thinking he's some big baller. He has money. Have you out with me and my friends, bring you to my events, gave out his number. And she says, no, I'm not really looking for anything like that. Wow. There are countless messages that I have. Another one talking about when she was 15. She wanted to come forward, but she's like, Sandy, I've moved on. I'm in the UK. I'm living my best life, whatever. I'm a student moving forward. And so, unfortunately, her family was like, leave this alone, because the victims are the ones who always, they want to look bad. Okay. Small sample I'm just showing y'all today. Here's another one from him. Wow. No love from you? I am on the road, was coming to give you $100 and steal a hug. Then head by the brewery, get some stuff. Person didn't respond. Next day, at 1 o'clock in the morning, I tell you, totally 86 me last night. Person still doesn't respond until later. And it says, what do you mean? You left me without saying anything. What you up to? There's one where he says, oh, I'm just a big teddy bear. I'm harmless. You can trust me. Still being cold to me. Not trying to start anything, but for someone that I cared about and wanted in my life, you truly have been cold-hearted to me. And it hurts because all I ever tried to do was be a friend. So this woman's like, listen, dude, I wasn't cold-hearted to you. I waved to you at every event I've been to, just not interested in going any further. The messages time and time again are there. And so even in the original podcast, evidence was produced about what type of person he is. He has scammed the Cayman Islands government out of money. None of these things were fabricated and were a lie. But the judge said the truth didn't matter. Now the Court of Appeals said, really? Of course the truth matters. The truth has to be a central part of this whole situation. It matters. Folks, think logically. If I had said anything untrue about this man, without a doubt, he would have ran to his lawyers if he had money and sought a civil suit against me because I had evidence, screenshot after screenshot, right? There was nothing he could do in terms of that. There was no defamation here. All of these, I'm just going to show you quickly, are screenshots from people, conversations. I have voice notes, all sorts of stuff. The facts matter. Let's have a look at another comment that came in today. This person had the following to say. This person says, you had such a massive victory, and for her to leave that out tells you what you need to know about her. Her communicating with you is just a case of can't beat them, join them. She's not your friend, and she thinks CMR is a tabloid not to be respected. Well, that's okay. She's entitled to her own opinions. My issue is, I think the truth has to be, in cases, have to accurately reflect the overall gist of what happened in court. So Joanna Bish said relevant facts that should have been reported. Raymond says, you see, you expect them to write the article correct, but automatically because it's CMR/Sandra, they're not going to vindicate you as you expect. Well, there you have it. El Rey says, but isn't that freedom of speech, freedom of press speech? You can repeat whatever you want, provided it's factual. Island Pearl says, I think Mr. Dexter is trying to just let the people know that Jane Isaac are no saints. So just like everything else that comes up about someone, he just wants her to deal with them like everyone else. Okay. So politically, I will say this. I'm not here saying that they're saints, but by far, they are not the worst of the bunch. Even in terms of the UPM government. I didn't really hear any scandals about Isaac, and I stand to be corrected, but I certainly didn't hear any scandals about him during the last 4 years. The most I heard about him is, maybe he doesn't have enough backbone to have stood up against people like Ms. Juliana O'Connor Conley and others. But neither did Kenneth, neither did John. None of her cabinet stood up against her, in my opinion, the way that they should have, except the 4 who eventually resigned. And the only way they were able to do that is by resigning. Now, having said that, we don't know what happens behind closed doors a lot of times, right? But I can tell you that her cabinet members would talk amongst themselves about how she was unavailable to them. And in fact, quite funny enough, I remember one saying to me that they regretted the fact that Wayne Panton had resigned and left because they might not 100% have loved his style, but one thing for sure is he had an open door policy. If you needed him, he was available. They're like, this woman, you can't get to talk to her about nothing. She made herself unavailable. So I think a lot of them regretted joining out with her in the end, but of course they chose to stay there in their cabinet positions and not say anything except for the 4 that ended up leaving. Another person says, good morning, Sandy. With Matthew's size, looks, and everything else going against him, he was trying to buy love, but trying with ish on children, he should be jailed. And even now, they should jail him. It's a question that have been asked of the police, and they say, oh, yeah, we need the victims to come forward, as usual. So they're not going to pursue it on their own. They want the victims to come forward and put their life on the line, which, you know, like I said, he's now outside the jurisdiction, but what a mess. Another viewer, listener this morning has the following to say. Let me just bring these up. Sandy, your success has eclipsed them all, and their actions say it. They're very jealous of you. To use one of your lines, they will be okay. By the way, I stopped reading CNS years ago. And let me be very, very clear. You know, CNS does an amazing job. Wendy is a good writer. And I think especially when it comes to the environment, which sort of is like her hyper focus, she does a lot of, you know, very, very good stories. And so I don't really have anything bad to say about her. Like I said, I think she hasn't accurately reflected what the case was or what transpired in court on Friday. And so, you know, her readers are okay with that. Good morning. One of my sexual abusers, I would go to their house looking for his sister, and he would say to see around the back and greeting me with a hug, and at the same time got his hands hidden on my private parts. Very, very sad, but you know, a lot of these people are duplicitous, and they live these lives where people think they're nice guys and they're nice people, and oh, I'm just a big teddy bear, I just want to hug you. And there's nothing safe about that at all. And I think the more that we educate people, especially children, about what they need to be conscious of and aware of, I think the better off for children. I'm here to prevent people from him, like getting their hands on anybody's child. So, you know, I'm okay with people not liking me. I'm okay with people thinking I'm loudmouth and I'm this, that, and the next thing. That's fine. Like I said, they're entitled to their opinion. But what I will never do is I will never stop advocating for victims. I will never stop educating people about individuals who, despite the fact that they do not have a conviction, and this is something you have to understand, the vast majority of offenders have never been arrested, much less convicted. That does not mean that they are not who they are, okay? And that you need to know that. That's why people who argue against the sex offenders registry says it gives communities a false sense of protection. And it can. Because most of the people out there have never been convicted. They've never been arrested. And a lot of them who are arrested get away with it. They don't get a successful case. That does not mean that they're not monsters living amongst us. Okay? So when I talk about Leon Gold, I make it very clear the man does not have a conviction. But I have heard one too many stories from women, young girls, and even their mothers have come forward and told me things that he did for me not to put a very big question mark over who and what he is. Women don't just join in unison and go around falsely accusing men of stuff like this. And the more people that speak and you hear these similar stories, I was drunk, I was intoxicated. My friend asked because he had a taxi service or whatever, please take her home safely. And then you take advantage of women under those circumstances. These women are not in collusion with each other. They're not sitting down saying, oh, I'm going to make up this story and you make up a similar story and then you make up, and they're providing facts. They're providing details that make you believe it was after this event. It was this year because I remember this Christmas party and da-da-da-da, and this person was there and that person was there. Listen, it is what it is. Now, you know, I've always said CMR is not everybody's cup of tea. But what I can tell you is a lot of you, and it's funny when people say certain things to me in terms of, wow, you know, Sandy, I've really come around in terms of your platform. I appreciate those sentiments because I think that, you know, I don't do this to be mean to people or anything of the sort. I do this because I actually care about my community. Now, you know, sometimes we get a little bit lit. Yeah. Not two ways about that. But I think it's important for people to understand that you have to look at somebody's, their heart and like where they're coming from, right? And so I do hope that most of you recognize and realize that it's not about trying to be malicious or mean to people. You know, maybe we don't always do it the most polished way. And there's sometimes when we have to apologize and kind of backtrack a little bit. But having said that, you know, I have a desire for the truth to always be at the forefront of whatever narrative we have out there. I'm trying to find a message from someone because I want to share something that someone shared with me a few months back. And I was really taken aback by this because I thought, you know, that it was oftentimes people, even if they have a change of a viewpoint about you one way or the other, they don't often take the time to share that with you. And so I must say that when someone does, you have to appreciate that they've taken the time to do that. So a few months back, there was a young lady, I'm not going to mention her name, who gave me a gift and she wrote me a beautiful handwritten card. Now, I have respect for people who take the time just to write you a little note, because of course we don't do letters or anything like that anymore. But she took the time and wrote me a note, and I was very, very impressed with what she said in it. I'm trying to see if I can find it just to read exactly what she said. But anyway, you know, it was such a lovely sentiment that she actually took the time to even share what she shared and to say, listen, when you first started, I have to admit that I was one of those people who didn't get it and didn't understand and maybe, you know, criticize CMR quite a bit. And so I now have appreciated a lot of what you do and why you do it. And I just want to say thank you. Not to say that we're going to agree on everything. And I thought, wow, that is just so amazing for this young lady to take the time to do that. Let me just see if I can squeeze in a quick phone call here. Let me see here. Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Give me a second here. Yeah, so, it is what it is. I'm not bothered. I mean, I know I say that, and I guess some of you might think, oh, well, she is bothered. I mean, listen, you do you, you be you. It's fine. It's not really that big of a deal. If you don't like me, God knows it's not really gonna, it's not gonna change my life in probably any meaningful way. I'm gonna be fine. And you are gonna be okay too. Oh my gosh. So, ay. It's fine. Let's just move on. Mr. Dexter, there'll be a lot of people who are going to say things about me. And you're free to take that on board. You're certainly free to believe those things or not. And, I'm not going to dissuade you not to believe it. Like I posted, what did I say last week? And this really perhaps is some of how we have to take on board. We live in such a small community. And I think we need to start taking this on board. When people want to talk about you, you tell them, continue. Go right ahead. Keep talking. You have to be okay in your truth and in your position of where you are in life. And, not worry about it. What more can I say? Let them. They want to talk and gossip about you. Let them. They're going to be fine. Their lives are probably 10 times more miserable than mine. Let them. I'm good. I'm not worried about them. Such a beautiful space that I'm in, that honestly, just let them. Yes, honey child.
Yes, honey child.
Let them.
But listening to you, I get up in the morning. The first thing I wait for my road to come on, because I've always found you to be impartial. But listening and putting this together, that you have to agree that people are saying this because they're thinking you got a way of getting them on your show. And that has not happened. It's almost 2 weeks. It won't stop me. Let's put it this way. I publicly say it's not going to stop me from listening to my road.
Wait a minute. Just hold on a second. You said that I have a way of getting people on my show?
No, but okay, you have phone numbers and keep inviting them for them to come with a clarification of why they did not. They have a collective responsibility, been a law being put in place, but it seems like they jumped ship after just before the election and went over to the present government. And
but Mr. Dexter, that's actually not what happened. They ran as two independent candidates. They didn't run with anybody. So you can't say that they jumped ship before the election at all. What they have done is after the election results came in, they decided, and obviously this is a matter for them, that they did not want to work with the progressive government, and they're more comfortable working with some of their former colleagues with the coalition government. And when you think about it, Mr. Dexter, it makes complete sense, because the PPM ran somebody against Jay. You think Jay is going to then get in bed with the PPM, with the progressives, after they ran a candidate against them?
What they should have done, what they should have done, and I would have done it, and probably you too, is why they were full parcel, pack and parcel when Julie was getting this money. They could have walked away then. Why is it that when the church received that almost 900,000, they were part of that government? Why didn't they not walk away then? That's
Well,
the thing.
If they ever come on the show, we will ask them, Mr. Dexter.
You have no control over the way that people act, and people got to understand that. But the thing about it is, I would keep inviting them for their
you will be happy to know that this weekend I reached out to all of them and said, please continue to engage with the public, including Isaac and Jay. So this is not stuff that I'm not doing, Mr. Dexter. I can assure you of that.
If it's one person in the media, as a journalist, whatever, gets results, you get results. That's why I don't listen to any other radio station. I listen to the country station there. But the point that I'm making is that they had an opportunity to not approve of these two major projects.
Let me tell you now. Let me tell you now. They're let's focus on the here and now, okay? They also now are part of this coalition government, and they have an opportunity to review certain things that Julie may have done to see if they can be undone, modified, or stopped completely. So let us encourage them to move forward in that way.
I encourage them to stand up for what is right, not try to be a good person. Stand up for what is important to this country.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Appreciate it. And you see, when people stand up, they're called quitters. So be careful what you ask for. Good morning, Sir Alric. How are you?
Good morning. How are you?
Good, good, good. I wanted to give you a call this morning because I have a question for you. And of course, you don't know what I'm going to ask you. And all I need for you to do is to answer the question truthfully. On Friday, so let me give you a little bit of background information. We have two articles that have been posted about Friday's hearing. CNS posted an article entitled, let me see if I can pull it up again. Something about, hold on one second. The headline says, Appeal Court hears arguments in CMR podcast case. I don't know if you've read it.
No.
CMR posted an article, same story, and the title there says Crown concedes in historic free speech case involving CMR. Now, there was only so many media there, me, you, Wendy. When you heard, and I don't think you've written a story on Friday's proceedings yet, when you heard what transpired on Friday, would you be surprised to know that in Wendy's reporting of the article, she does not mention anywhere at all, it doesn't feature even in a single sentence, that we were going into the hearing on Friday with the DPP's office already conceding? As someone who has entered into the journalistic space, people can probably tell you you're not a journalist either, but you have your own publication, you write stories. Would you be surprised that that was never mentioned in an article that supposedly summed up what happened on Friday?
The comment that was clearly made was that it was good that DPP did not contest this appeal. And I mean, it's clearly going in the direction of, looking at your freedom of speech and respecting your freedom of speech when you're telling a story that is based on what you've gathered from the evidence you've gathered. And what I got from a judge was that if you're gathering information to establish the truth of something, then my understanding was that should not be deemed harassment to anyone.
Okay, not even getting to the legal argument, setting that aside for a minute. Just for the purposes of reporting, would you write an article and not mention that the Crown had already thrown in the white flag before we even got started that day? Would that have, if you wrote an article, never mentioned that, in your mind, just from the perspective of being a journalist writing a story, do you think that would have accurately reflected what happened on Friday if you didn't mention that at all?
I'm I'm not sure if she's writing 2 articles, but I agree.
Okay. So, because there are people unrelated to what Dexter's going on about Jane Isaac, but there are people who are in her comment section saying, oh, I've written one story covering the trial hearing on Friday, and my article is so different than hers that I must be the one who got it wrong, because my title says, Crown concedes in historic free speech involving CMR. The first paragraph says, in a landmark moment for freedom of for press freedom of in the Cayman Islands, the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution has conceded that the 2020 conviction of Sandra Hill, founder of Cayman Mall Road, was legally flawed and cannot stand. Did I miss something in court? Was that not, because even when my lawyer was trying to go into certain facts, the court stopped him. They're like, we don't need to rehash all the facts of, what she said in the podcast. We don't care about any of that. They stopped him twice, as you will recall. They were like, the crux of it is the constitutional issue, freedom of speech, the fact that facts matter when you're trying to criminalize freedom of speech, and the judge did not give sufficient weight to someone's freedom of expression. And the Crown basically got up and said, yeah, okay, we agree with all of that, and that's what it is. So...
Yeah, I mean, the other point that was made was that the judge in the previous case did not appear to seek to establish the truth. And I think that was one of the issues that the Court of Appeal was raising as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, that's all I wanted to clarify before.
Okay.
All right, my dear. Thanks so much. I appreciate it.
You're headed to court now. Thanks.
Have fun.
Okay, bye.
So someone says that she does now mention it, and I think she must have obviously edited that because that was not there initially. So while the Crown had conceded a number of elements in this appeal, they didn't concede a number of elements. That's still not accurate. What they conceded is that they don't have an argument to make. They didn't concede a number of elements. They have said, we agree that this is an unsafe conviction that should now be thrown out. That is different than conceding a number of elements. Still inaccurate. Caller, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Not too bad. How are
Sound
you?
very passionate this morning.
Yeah, because, I want people trying to get something right.
And, like I've said before on your show, you have grown tremendously.
Thank
But,
you.
that comes with wisdom and time. We start out sometime and we start out rough. It's not where we start, it's where we end. And it's always about what our motives are. And if your motives is for the right things, eventually it will come out of you. And that's how it is. So you're just where you are, and you're doing a great job.
Thank you.
Come a long way.
For
There
sure.
were times I was hang up because it wasn't my day, and instead of me there, that's your show, and being rude and saying whatever, I was like, okay, no, and I just came off. And I think that that's a way of whatever. I didn't feel like at that time I had the right to call in and say it because you had your passion about it. And sometimes what I don't know. There are times that I'm telling people something and they don't know what I know, what I'm looking on, what somebody has given to me, and I have some ammunition. It's just that I haven't used it. So I might say to them certain things because I know certain things, right? And that I think go with you a lot of times. So when you're going on, he does not understand. And sometimes when you don't understand, it doesn't mean that the person is wrong or they're right. You don't understand. So later on, I'll come back sometimes and then I understand because you come out with the evidence or whatever it is, And there are many people that are going to hate you. There are going to be people that love you. But once you can sleep at night, I think it's very important that you have peace in your life. And that you know that what you're doing it not to harm anyone. You're doing it for the betterment of your people, even though sometimes they don't see it that way. I could deal with that. When Mr. Dexter called this morning, he said, oh, they should quit. In other words, look at what happened to the other ones that quit.
Right. They were labeled as quitters.
Oh
And that could have caused some of them to campaign. We don't know. You know,
that is right. It has, because people have said that to me.
Yeah, that they destabilized the government, and why did they quit? And they should have stayed there and continued to work with her. And you know,
I've had it on my side. They say that's why it didn't work, because it quit. And I said it didn't quit, and whatever. So I've had that throughout of the campaign before the election.
Yeah.
So this is what I'm saying. So in the end, you know what we all have to do? We have really go pray about it. Get a clear conscience, feel like you're doing the right thing, because you cannot please all the people all the time. And you got to end up knowing that what you're doing it and justify it within your heart that I'm doing this for the right reason and it's the right thing to do.
And you don't have to, you don't have to explain to people sometimes too, I feel like, you know, although I'm in a public space, so I will take the time to explain certain things.
That's what it is all about.
But listen to me now, Miss Joyce Ann. Not everyone is going to understand you, your journey in life, where you are, where you've been, where you're going. And that's okay. And we have to come to the point where we can say that is okay.
That's it. And that's peace. That's called peace. And let me tell you something. You can't pay for peace.
Oh gosh.
And once you got the peace, sometimes you're richer than money, right? Because people got money and they're actually there and they don't have no peace. Sometimes they leave the money. But peace is what you need. And you know, sometimes people it's not what you did, it's who it is. They didn't like you. I've seen it, right? This one do it and they has nothing to say about it. Even PPM, I watch sometimes the things, and the people still going on, and they don't have nothing to say. But the next group do it, and there it is. We need to be fair. If it's PPM, TCCP, the Cayman National Park, whoever it is, or individual, because at the end of the day, we could make it worse for our country. What is we really at the person, or are we for the country? Because at the end of the day, I think we need to close our eyes who it is and just say, well, if they're doing what they're doing, we need to applaud them. We need to encourage them, regardless to who they are, regardless of from where they come from. I've heard, oh, well, you know where they come from. Yes. Again, I say it's not where you come from, because the richest man sometimes maybe we'll be surprised where he came from. If we go back and research, he might have been one that was begging on the street. Mary Kay was a woman that she had how many bounce checks when she started Mary Kay, and when she ended her journey, she had so much money that she gave so many different organizations, millions of dollars, and she started with bounce check. So it's not where you start, but it's where you're going to finish. Right?
And it is unfortunate that people don't get that, Miss Joyce Ann, because I say it all the time. Like sometimes we talk about people on here, but it's people who are on this repetitive cycle. They're on the what we call it, the hamster wheel, that they don't change their behavior. So we're having to continually talk about them over and over again because they refuse to do any better. Thank you for those comments, my dear.
They do. And just before I go, there was this man and his son, and they had a donkey. So the father was on the donkey riding, and the people said, look at the man, he's so wicked. He made that little boy walking. They put the boy on the donkey, and they said, what a wicked little boy. They make that old man walking.
You can't please people, honey child.
No. And so the two of them now decide to tie up the donkey, and they can back the donkey.
Oh, geez, I'm
So the two of them have the donkey now, backing the donkey. And the people say, what two fool, they got a donkey to ride. And they're not riding the donkey. So that is just that is just to show you the people we live amongst. And I can never please people, but God never please a soul.
Absolutely.
But we need to just be really, truthfully honest to ourselves and as honest as we can be to others. And I think that's a good thing.
Thank you, darling.
So
I appreciate it. That's a great example. Thank you so much. One that really brings the point home, as Pat says, be okay with not being everybody's cup of tea. Yes, folks, listen. We got to kick off our book club soon enough. But trust me when I tell you, the book that I keep telling you guys about, which is very, very important that you read, right? The elements of it is do not let people get in your head. These people don't contribute to your life in any meaningful way. Does it really matter what every Tom, Dick, and Harry thinks about you? The courage to be disliked. Huh? You know what it takes to have the courage to be disliked? That means that you're not going to be a people pleaser. And that's important. People out there pleasing other people and they have the most miserable lives. Because number one, you'll never, as Miss Joyce Ann's story illustrates, you will never please people. They will always find something to criticize you about, and you have to be okay with that. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, Sandra.
Morning, darling.
How are you doing? I
Not
trust
bad.
You're doing well, and
yes.
I trust Cayman as well.
Absolutely.
This morning. The courage to not be disliked. Yeah.
No, the courage to be disliked.
Yeah, well,
yes.
I have a lot of that in my life, so I can tell you, you learn to what my dear departed mom of 40-something years used to tell me.
Mm-hmm.
Bite your tongue, she would say to me a lot of the time.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't mean bite her tongue. She meant, what you're going to say, you say a different way. Don't make the issue any worse than what it is. But I got called out again this morning. I'm going to be very brief this morning about this traffic on the road.
Okay.
Because I don't know if you can get through to the police because I can't seem to get through to them.
Okay.
The last policeman I spoke to in West Bay told me, don't remember his name because I've stopped taking them and stopped writing their badges and numbers down this morning. I've stopped it. He told me the reason why there are no police there's no police presence in the District of West Bay was that at most times there are only 2 officers stationed at the West Bay Police Station. Now, Sandra, whether it is a lie or it is not a lie, I'm going to say this morning. Any and everyone that lives in the District of West Bay can see the police vehicles going from the police station and coming to the police station. So now I'm going to put the question to the commissioner and to the 4 MPs this morning, and I hope all 4 are listening loud and clear. I have asked for a police presence on certain roads. The District of West Bay is being not policed properly, and I want the 4 MPs to address it. Ms. Julie Hunter, Ms. Catherine Ebanks-Wilt, Mr. Rolston Anglin, and our Premier, Mr. Andre Ebanks. Since speaking to you last, I've been almost knocked down again by Bankers Road this time, okay? The police officer told me 2 officers are only assigned to the police station. So I want the commissioner and I want all the 4 MPs to find out why we have police vehicles and police officers going from our police station and coming back to our police station. If that officer told me there's only 2 officers assigned, why are all these officers going from in our vehicles, the people vehicles that they keep destroying and mashing up? And where are these police officers coming from back to the police station? But I'm going to call out a couple rude, disrespectful drivers and don't care on the road this morning. Domino's pizza drivers, those are some of the worst ones, okay? And I told the young lady I was going to call and address it this morning. I have watched one of their drivers. The manager told me they have 2 young ladies that drive 2 little red Honda Fit. I have told her to tell her drivers to slow down as of yesterday. The public transport buses, okay? The public transport buses, the 95% of those drivers are rude and speeding on our roadways. And they don't care. They will kill you to get in front of that bus to get another $2. They are not following their route. They cut off when they see another bus going past Bankers Road here before it turns on to from off of Birch Tree Hill. They'll turn down Bankers Road, or they'll turn down up the road on Captain Joe and Osbert because another bus has gone down the route of Birch Tree Hill, Conch Point Road, Captain Reginald, and Mount Pleasant, and then past the police. They're not gonna do that because they won't get that $1 that's standing, like $2 that's standing by the side of the road, so they're not following their route. Where are the community police in the district? Where are the public transport officers that drive around in our people's vehicles that they keep mashing up?
Let me do this, because I know you said you were going to keep it short, but already you're going on for a little bit. So let me see if we can't have someone from the traffic division reach out to you. So I'm going to do this morning. I'm going to send a message to the police commissioner via email, asking him to please have someone reach out to you who is with the traffic division. Yeah, because you have some concerns. Now, I don't personally believe that there's only 2 officers at West Bay. I don't think that that's accurate at all.
No.
So I don't know who told you that.
Deal with what needs to be dealt with.
Yes.
That's all that is.
All right. So let me.
High-ranking officer.
Oh Lord.
But let me call the other 2, and then I'll come off. There is a company here in West Bay called Smith Transport or whatever. They own the school buses that transport our students, which is our future citizens or whatever you want to call them, leaders of this country. They go around speeding also. At 3 o'clock, you can pull your camera out because they're going to speed on Conch Point Road. Okay? They go around the corner there where there's a daycare, Kitty Cole, just before Spanish Lane and Elizabeth Lane, coming up to Captain Reginald Drive and Conch Point Road, the junction there. They're speeding around that corner and they go in the middle of the road, and when the cars are coming down from Barkers, they got to get off the side of the road. Will you send me a message on WhatsApp with your number? Yes. No, I have your number, but your name. Okay. So, because I'd like to be able to put a name with it. Well, you know who I am, but I have had enough now, and I'm going to speak it. So just send it. I'm not catching the name to be able to put it, the voice to put it with a name. So just send that to me, and then I'm going to forward that on. There are taxi drivers, and then you have the general public speeding. It has to be addressed. I am asking it now. I have had enough. I've really had enough, and that's all I'm going to say. Have a blessed day. Thank you. I appreciate it. Keep doing what you're doing. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you. Have a blessed day. You too. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye. All right. So a couple more things. Speaking of accurate court reporting, so let's talk about the other 2 cases that were there, because there was actually, I mentioned to you guys on Friday that there were 3 cases that was going to be heard. Again, nobody else covered. I mean, Wendy certainly didn't cover Lavelle, or the other one with Sean Connor. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, Sandra. Congratulations on the winning the case, although we are still waiting for the formal judgment.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, but you went to court. Both lawyers spoke, and they have now formally put the DPP's lawyer. It's interesting. They also got a KC to just come and admit, but that also was important in that, it had to be clear that the person advancing your case was a KC, which in Cayman means a lot of things, as well as the person admitting on the other side was a KC. And of course, they gave it some detail to show exactly how bad it was. And I think, you see, what people need to appreciate is the significance of this, not just in one respect, like in the sense that you won the case, but also what it says about the judiciary and how it might affect people and how it has affected people before. This judge, Roger Chappell, he is a judge in England. He retired, but he has a wing in his chambers for consulting. It's called RLC Consulting. Those are his initials. And what people need to understand is that people like this are really job seekers, because when he sat in your case, he was not a full-time judge, like with a security of tenure. he was brought in as an acting judge. So they bring these people in to act either for 6 months or just for a few cases. And my experience with these judges is that they give them certain cases with a bit of a wink. Okay, to say that this is the result that we want. Because if you look at his background, this is not a sort of mistake that a judge should make. In my case, one of the, I can't go into all my cases, but I just want to draw those that have got some parallels with your case. Again, in my case, they had an acting judge called Malcolm Swift. This acting judge, you see, what he did was, in the case he was hearing was supposed to be really simple and straightforward. I tried to teach part-time when I was with the Attorney General Chambers. I was approached by a Caymanian, a Caymanian who was running a training firm and said, I hear you designed some courses to teach people on how, a little bit of judicial review, a little bit of how to work on legislation so that they can control the content of legislation. But because I was in government and I had tried to teach these courses in government, the chief officers agreed that I should teach the courses, but then the powers that be, the Attorney General, Alden McLaughlin, they didn't want this because it was going to make people wise, you see. I got so fed up with it at that time. I had worked for 12 years there. I had developed these courses. Even one of my books, the foreword, was written by Belgian. But then when I came to teach what was in the book, then they said, you can't teach it. I went to court. And I pointed out in court that I don't want to go on for very long, but this is very important. I went on to court and I said, look, why are you refusing me to teach them privately? You didn't want me to teach the courses in government for free, and now I want to teach them privately to help a Caymanian and the Caymanians how these things work. And again, now you say you can't give me permission to teach. You have given permission to teach about 200 plus people in government, including people who were given even permission to part-time coach basketball. People were given permission to help run a mechanic's shop. People were given permission to teach and so on. But with me, when I wanted to teach, because you had targeted me, you didn't want me to give permission. So I went to court and I sought judicial review. I mean, there were so many grounds of it. This acting judge, Malcolm Swift, he said that my case was frivolous and vexatious. Despite me pointing out that why am I being singled out? But I was singled out. Kerry Tibbetts called you the other day and also told you how Justice Mangatau told her that some people told Mangatau to say you should ensure that you throw the book at Kerry. They do that, and you won't believe it, that another judge, his name is Philip St. John Stevens, or as they pronounce it in Irish, Philip St. John Stevens. St. John Stevens declared me a vexatious litigator. The Attorney General went to court and had me declared a vexatious litigator because I had sued a judge on a very clear provision, Section 29 of the Grand Court law. It says very clearly, if a judge acts maliciously, they are not protected from civil suit. This judge acted maliciously. I proved by 13 emails, which I sent, I proved he was being malicious because he denied me a hearing on the basis that I never requested it in time. And yet I showed by 13 emails that it was requested 13 about 2 months before. And yet, when he dismissed that case, he even had me declared a vexatious litigator that for 2 years you are not going to bring a case regarding this. Okay, you can imagine you've got a strong case and they've already really messed you up, but now to abuse their power, they used an acting judge to do that. And this is the problem in the Cayman Islands, which we have to look at in terms of the freedom of judges to be able to make decisions. In your case, I think everybody should be thankful for you for fighting this. I know it has been emotional. It has taken an emotional toll. You are strong. You don't always show that that you are cracking or anything, but really this should have taken an emotional toll. And the judiciary should now be looked at to see exactly how people are getting victimized in it. And part of the reasons, among the many reasons, is that you don't have Caymanians in the judiciary. Now, I know that some people don't agree that maybe Suzanne Bothwell should have been a judge, but why did they make her a judge? It is because they don't want the Caymanians to be there. They want to be able to do this kind of thing and so on. But I could give, no, let me give you one more example before
Yes.
I one more example. There's a judge called Sir Bernard Ricks. Sir Bernard Ricks decided a case in 2016 called Oliveira against the Attorney General. This was a case from Antigua, which went to the Privy Council, because this is Bernard Ricks. He sits in the Court of Appeal in Cayman, but he also sits in the Privy Council, which I don't agree with. Judges should not sit in two courts regularly, you know. But anyway, he decided a case where he said that if a person applies to government for an immigration matter and the government takes 12 months, that 12 months is too long. You know, for it's too much of a delay. You should pay them damages for delaying their immigration matter. You know, 12 months is too long. That same judge sat in my case in the Grand Court, in the Court of Appeal, where my case before the Court of Appeal, or rather before the Grand Court, after judgment was reserved, I had to wait 42 months, 3 years and 6 months. That's how long I waited. And that same judge decided in my case that 42 months was not too long for you to wait. That is the same judge who, like 8 years before that, had made a decision to say that if you wait for only 12 months, it's too long. And yet, in my case, he said if you wait for 42 months, it's not too long. So this is the way they victimize people. At the end of the day, what they should try to do, find a way in which there can be greater accountability among judges. I still have a case going to the Court of Appeal. I mean, I've made freedom of information requests to the governor's office. I wanted to get the pictures of the Privy Council judges because they were also compromised in my view. The governor's office refused to give me those pictures until I went to the ombudsman. So big problem today. I think we should just celebrate what has happened. When your case now, the judgment is written and we read it, then we can discuss it a little bit more so that people can appreciate the full extent of that.
Thank you so much.
Okay,
Really appreciate
thank you
it.
very much. Thank you for the opportunity.
Absolutely. Thank you too. All right, folks. So in full and frank coverage of what happened on Friday, let me also talk about the other two people who were in the court. So the first one to go was Miss Lovell Marriott. Before the court session started, she was seen starting to get very animated with praying and speaking in tongues and doing all this kind of stuff at the back of the courtroom. She has enough sense to stop that when the judges came in, because that would not be tolerated. So she did stop. And basically they dismissed her case, saying that it didn't have any merits. You know, she was trying to appeal on questions of fact. When you get to the Court of Appeal, they don't determine questions of factual stuff. They determine questions of law. And so she'd gotten that far, which I didn't even know that like I said on Friday, I had no idea that she was at that point for the Court of Appeals, but they basically threw out and dismissed her request to, even really hear much of what she had to say. And they told her she was making arguments about, whether or not she had been fairly treated and all sorts of different things. And they said that they found that the judge had done the right thing in her case. So then the other one, which was very, very interesting, is in relation to, what's his name again? Sean Connor, East End. So I believe this case, I have to read her own article because, of course, I don't write everything that's on CMR, right? Is in relation to the fact that, remember the home invasion in Patrick's Island? I think this is that conviction. He's had a number of them, but I believe that's this one. And so his was put off till last time. The judges seemed a little bit annoyed because they're like, we feel like every single time we have us sitting lately, we're here talking about this, and we're kind of sick and tired. We're kind of sick and tired of it. Like, the case really isn't moving forward, et cetera, et cetera. So they essentially told his lawyer that he needs to get it together. So yeah, that was interesting. And that they will allow one more, and they said, trust me, when we say one more, we will allow one more segment with him coming before us, and then after that we're going to say enough is enough. So I think his lawyer was saying something about she was still trying to get like forensic evidence and some other stuff, and she's waiting on some report or something. But anyway, he said, the judges said, next time we'll hear from you one more time. If you don't have it together by then, don't even show up before us, kind of vibe. So, I guess we'll see where that goes from there. And those were the two, those were the two that other cases. Now, when I went to sit, so I was initially in the media box, and then when it was my turn to be the, part of the court proceedings, I had to move. And I went to sit where Lavelle, sorry, hear me calling her Laurel. Shane Connor. Did I say Sean? My apologies. Shane Connor, yes. So we went to, I went and sat there. She had what looked like salt all over the chair and all over the table. And so I don't know what the whole salt thing was about, but I was not going to sit in that chair. So I swapped chairs and moved the salt as much as I could off the table. So I guess that's some form of voodoo is what somebody was telling me. I'm not familiar with any voodoo techniques. I don't think that you can claim that you are a Christian and serve the good Lord and then also talk about voodoo and stuff like that. So I was not comfortable. I mean, I don't believe that had any impact on me, obviously, but I was not going to sit in her chair. I was simply not comfortable sitting in the chair with salt all over it. I mean, it was just like, yo, what the hell is this supposed to be? So anywho, I didn't bother with that. What a hot mess. Damn. Woo. She started to try to get a little bit animated with the, judges when she didn't get her way. And we've certainly seen that here before. And the judges were not having it. They were like, no. You need to listen. You need to stop talking. And you need to listen to us now. And so it is what it is. So they dismissed her case. So those were the two. But I'm like, salt, what the hell? No, sir. Salt all over the place, honey child. I'm like, Lord Jesus. Poor thing, she's special. I don't know though, because, on the one hand, I think she needs professional help, but she knows how far to go and not to go any further. Like Dappe know who to frighten. She wasn't going to play with those judges because she knew they would have put her in jail. So apparently one of the complaints she had is that they put her in jail. They locked her up for 7 days because the last time she was in court, her conviction, she got $100 fine to cover, I guess, some of the court costs. That doesn't cover very much. She had paid $25 that day, then didn't pay the rest. But a lot of these fines are subject to, like, if you don't pay them, you're going to get sent to jail. So she didn't pay it, and she was complaining about that, and they locked her up for a week, 7 days. I was like, damn. So there you go. Oh, this case was about, the initial case was when she was blocking the road. Remember, I think that was like 2021, 2022. She was blocking the Linford Pearson highway with all kind of debris and chairs and rocks and all kind of stuff. And when she was arrested with that, for that offense, she was held for like resisting arrest and different things, which she claims that she wasn't. So it's a hot mess, child. Wow. Yeah, Joanna, that's what I was thinking. You can't be claiming that you're a Christian and be talking about voodoo or black magic or whatever the heck that is. But I was not gonna sit in that. I was not sitting in that chair. No. Under no circumstances. Anyway, folks, tomorrow is another beautiful day, God's willing. We will see you guys. Yeah, Shane was involved. Shane Connor involved in the home invasion, Patrick's Island. He was the final one that they caught. Took them a while to catch on to him, but they found some evidence. Then I think one of his co-accused may have turned state evidence on him as well. I can't remember all the details. Sometimes there's so many cases and with the same defendants and they're all over the place. You can't remember everything. So sometimes I'm like, oh, let me check my notes. Couple greetings here today. Let's wish Miss Morna a happy birthday. She is a fan of CMR. Maybe not all the time, but a lot of times she's a fan of the show. So she is celebrating. How old you say is Miss Morna today? 60-something years old. She looks good. Look at that. I don't even see a wrinkle on her. And I know she's not using no filter. Mess with you, girlfriend. So happy birthday. And we just received message this morning. You're going to hear it as breaking news here. And then, of course, we will put up the story. Mr. Ernie Scott has passed away in Cayman Brac. So my sincere condolences to his family. Wow. So very, very sad. I know Brackers respected him. So our condolences to him. And then I wanted to share this. I'm going to post this up on Facebook. Someone sent it to us. They said that this young lady attends Red Bay School, and she went to Red Bay dressed up as, I guess, CMR. So look at that. Isn't that the cutest little thing? So cute. Thank you so much, young lady, for showing the love. Yes. So adorable. Thank you, Joanna. She says you did the right thing. God bless you in abundance. I appreciate it. And I wish all of you a wonderful Monday. Go get it. I'm going to take Thursday and Friday off. So let me tell you guys that from now. Taking a little bit of a post-election break. I think we all need it, to be honest. Marjorie asking if they can't send Lavelle off the island. She was part of McKeeva's status grants, honey child. So I think they can, but she probably hasn't committed serious enough of an offense quite yet. What a mess. So yes, we hope that, not that we want her to what the hell is that? Somebody said discuss this mess. What is that? All right, let me find out what that is. That looks like a discussion for tomorrow. But she got status with McKeeva, so it's been a minute now. But all right, so tomorrow's show, okay. We will be sorting out, hopefully. Oh my God. We will be sorting out a few things tomorrow, but geez, peace. Oh my God. Okay. I'm going to post that up and I will let you guys comment. Listen, people send me stuff and sometimes I'm flabbergasted. I'm like, oh, and I don't even want to say anything because then you're like, oh, you're being mean. This one, I'm just going to post it up and y'all can tell me what you think. All right. Gotta go. You guys have a fantastic day. Okay. Be good, folks. See you guys tomorrow morning. Bye for now.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Cold Hard Truth on Bobo 89.1 FM. Cayman's #1 talk show is live weekdays from 7:30 a.m. Never miss an episode again. Watch anytime on CMR's Facebook and YouTube channels for the latest show episodes. Don't forget to follow us online on our social media channels and visit CaymanMarlRoad.com for all the latest news and community happenings.